Hello ladies and gents, another video brought to you by Hood, and today's video is about the catastrophic fail of my Pheidole Noda's Outworld. And yeah, it's pretty dramatic, that really, isn't it? But it ends up being quite dramatic. Well, for me anyway. As you can clearly see, I've got a couple of ants running around the outside of the enclosure, which clearly tells you they're getting past the barrier. You might not think that's too much of a drama. There's only a couple there. As you can see, you can still see them running around here. That's not a drama, Hood. What are you talking about? Yes, just wait and see, shall we? So let's put some context into what has actually occurred with these guys. Because at the weekend, I was on Discord talking to some people about ants being geeky. I was having a couple of beers and I noticed, as you can see here, I had ants running over the top of the Outworld. Now I'm doing this as a bit of a pre-context of what has gone on, because it shows... well, it shows how badly one barrier can be for a species of ants. So, because I've been drinking, I didn't want to put a full barrier on again. So what I decided to do was to take off the old barrier using some wet cotton wool, which is PTFE. And as you notice, I've always said these guys use PTFE because it's the best form of barrier for them, and it is, and you'll know why in a second. And apply a mineral oil barrier. Now the issue with the mineral oil barrier is that ants like Pheidole Nodas and my Solenopsis love to stick stuff to it, which means they get over it very quickly. But if I'm going to apply that, I need to get rid of all the PTFE, because the baby powder or the white powder that's in PTFE will absorb all of the mineral oil, and it will give them a barrier to get across. Plus they'll apply rubbish to it as well and get over it. But I was hoping it would last a little bit longer, because like I said, I'd been drinking and I didn't want to tackle these when I've had a half cup with a load of beers. So I decided just to put a stopgap measure of putting mineral oil on. So this is what I'm doing here. It's actually the Rakushi mineral oil barrier. It's pretty good. I use it on my, I think I use it on my carpenter ants to stop them getting over, and I like it for stuff like that. It's also really good for really humid environments. So I use it on my terrarium and stuff like that, where the humidity is around 80%. Brilliant for stuff like that, but anything where ants are going to stick stuff to it or have a habit of sticking stuff to it, and this stuff is useless. And I learned that a little bit later on. So this barrier that I applied in haste lasted all of 2 days, I think it was. 2 days, and it started getting past it. 2 days, it started sticking stuff to it. They got past it in no time. Bearing in mind, it was a good, healthy, thick layer of barrier. And this is why mineral oil is not a great barrier for stuff like these little ants, which are massive pains in the bum. But anyway, so 2 days later, they'd got past it, so I had to start this process all over again. But this time, I hadn't been drinking and I was ready for the challenge. Was I? So guys, there is a lesson to be learnt here, and you'll see this now. So they fast forward a couple of days, they were getting past the barrier, so I knew I had to reapply the barrier completely. Now there's a couple of issues that I encounter with this. One, there is too many ants in the Outworld. Two, I left it far too late, so I had not only had to contend with the barrier where it had been broken because I cleaned it off, I also had to contend with all the other areas that got past it. You can clearly see from here they're walking over the barrier like it doesn't exist. So that was another issue that I had. And three, I need a bigger Outworld, simply. I need a bigger Outworld because this is far too small for them now. And as you can see with the activity in this Outworld, they're probably treating it like a bloody nest at the moment because there's just so many of them. I know what you're going to be saying, Hood, you're squishing a load of your ants. And yes, I am. That is unavoidable. But as you can clearly see here, as soon as I get past that, I clear that barrier off, they are swarming it all over the place. You can see from the top, I didn't get a great angle of this, but there is loads of them all over the cotton wool, and I have no choice but to try and leave them there and clean them off. I do attempt to hoover them up in a bit, which is just an absolute nightmare, a disaster, and pointless. I then get a cotton wool to dry off the wet bits, so I can apply the PTFE, so I can clean that all off as well, get it all on so it's a fresh barrier. And you need to wipe off your old stuff to put your new stuff on. Otherwise it just won't be an effective barrier. This is why I'm going, look at how badly it gets. And there's no barrier stopping these guys now. They are literally swarming everywhere. You can see me flicking them off at the top of the video, and that's because I have literally got hundreds all over my hands. And when I say hundreds over my hands, I'm not kidding at all. And by the way, I don't squash as many as you think I am doing here. And what I start to do there is quickly applying the barrier as well. As you can see, just flick the cotton wool in, because trying to put the cotton wool on the top so they can get them out was just not working. So this is the angle I approached. I put the cotton wool inside the Outworld. Now that's does mean I have to deal with it later, but it also means it contains a lot of the ants in there, and I cannot tell you how many ants were out everywhere all over the place. It was ridiculous. And not only that, this was the first time I actually experienced my Nodas biting me, and bite me they did. They bite me all over my hands, all over my arms. They even got into my armpit at one point because they got up my arms so far. So they do bite, but the little ones, it's not the majors you might think, because most of the majors didn't get on me. It was the little ones, and they bite, and they do hurt. I don't even know why, because they're so tiny. But yes, I did feel them biting, and it wasn't very pleasant. And I won't lie, guys, I've only got myself to blame for this because of my poor maintenance of the barrier. And the reason why I've left it so long and been so poor maintenance with it is solely because this Outworld is not big enough for them anymore. Realistically speaking, I need that supermassive Outworld that I got from Wakushi for my Solenopsis. Believe it or not, it was actually meant for these because I knew the situation they were in, but I thought my Solenopsis are more of a problematic species. You're going to need the larger Outworld that lasts longer. So I put my Solenopsis in that. Against Wakushi's wishes, because he didn't want me to test it on my Solenopsis. He wanted to test it on these first before I went to the Solenopsis, but I did, and it's done fine, so that's cool. Now, realistically speaking, like I said, I really need to get an Outworld that size for these girls, but the issue I've got is I do not have the space for an Outworld that big. So I'm looking at his next smaller one, which is not out on his website yet, but I have been talking to him about it. I can't think what he said he's called it, the S5 I think he was going to call it, with that the supermassive one that I've got being the S6, so it's a bit smaller. I think he said something along the lines it's going to be similar to his Weaver Outworld but on its side rather than vertical, but I've not seen it, I've not got it, but that's something I am looking at getting, because as you can see with these guys, it is ridiculous. And yeah, I'm not killing these, believe it or not, because the cotton wool's so soft. They are actually fine, and as you can see, they're all running around on it now. It's not as bad as it looks, but I really struggled with them because if you can see, they're just everywhere. It's an absolute nightmare, and this is only myself to blame, guys. And believe it or not, I didn't have many. I did kill a lot of them by mistake, but there wasn't as many casualties as you might have thought. And as you can see from the top of the Outworld, they're still running all over the place, and they are running all over my hands. They run into my hair, my face, everywhere, and it was an absolute car crash of a nightmare. But this was the only way to really go about applying this barrier. Now, some of the difficulties I encounter with this Outworld is that I've got big fat hands. They are workman hands. They're big, fat, and chunky, and the Outworld top lid isn't very big, so I do struggle to get my hand in there to apply the barrier. Captain Hindsight to the rescue. Maybe I should have applied the new barrier to the top of the Outworld before I did the sides. Then I would have had some form of barrier to stop them all running out. Great thing about that is hindsight is awesome, but it's hindsight. You can look back and reflect. So what I would say to you guys, if you are looking at doing this and you've got in the same situation I am, apply the top barrier first before you mess with the side barrier, because then you'll have at least some form of protection to stop them all running out the Outworld like they did for me. So I decided to get my iPad out as well, so you can actually get another angle of me seeing my hands and stuff and seeing how many ants I get all over myself trying to clean these out. You'll also notice at the bottom there is a massive pile of dirt and rubbish left over as well, because as you can tell for how many are in there, it's absolutely impossible to clean them out. And I have actually cleaned that out now as I'm time of editing this video, but at the time it was quite mounding up a lot as well. So, but like I said, it's the issue with the Outworld, it's too small for them, and realistically speaking, I need to get another nest for them as well, because they might empty out the Outworld a little bit more if I had a decent nest for them. So I am actually looking at getting another MS 5.5 and doing a triple decker nest setup, because you know these guys are double deckers already, but that's in the future. If nothing else, this video is a lesson to you all, guys, is keep on top of your maintenance. If you leave it too long or keep putting it off, like I have, you can have, look how many all over my hands, you can have the same issues that I've got here, is that I've just left it too late to apply a new barrier. They've got past it, and now they're too busy in the Outworld as well. I should have kept on top of it. So that's the takeaway lesson from this, guys. It really is, maintain your barriers, especially when you've got a species like this that grow really quickly. They can catch you on the off. Look how many are all over my hands, and this is what I'm talking about. Just, they're all over my hands, they get up into my arms, they bite me all over the place, and it was pretty, and my bingo wings there, it's pretty horrific. So to stop you guys getting bored, I've sped this up by times 8, I think it is, to get it go a bit quicker, because this is literally a 20-minute video, over a 20-minute video clip itself. But you can get an idea of how much that they'll be in a pain. I also swapped my phone out in a second because that one just gonks out. I think the memory's full on it or something, so I put my new phone on there as well, but that's neither here nor there. Now what I'm trying to do here is clean up as I go along because they're running all over the place, which isn't a bad idea. If you've got something like a Hoover, you can do it quickly. If you're using something like cotton wool, then there's just no point. Just get that barrier on as soon as possible. I was depending on the old barrier lasting, stopping them as well. But as you can see as I go on, as I quickly apply the barrier, I've refined my technique to help me and not waste so many cotton wool because they get all over it. I only put half water on it so I can flip it around and dry it with the same bit and then drop it straight in the nest. In the Outworld, sorry. It might as well be a nest, look how many are in there. But no, the Outworld, so I can worry about getting that out later. And I clean up as I go along. And sorry I've got a bit of a snotty nose. I have still got a bit of residual cold from last week. So I've cut it out because it was quite a long bit of video there, even though I sped it up. But this is the end result. I've got all those cotton wool bits in there, but the barrier is applied and it's now secure, which is great news to be honest, because it was a bit of a nightmare. There is still some running around on the outside, but I'll police them up later. Now this was after work. I came back after about 6:30, had something to eat, then dealt with this barrier. So it's probably about 8-9 o'clock now, and I am getting tired now. Do I leave these cotton wool? I did contemplate it in there, but the answer to that is no. Because I did that with my Solenopsis once when a bit went into the Outworld and I left it and they burrowed all into it. So rather than just taking it out, flicking them off, making it easy, I had to pull the cotton wool apart and get individuals out, and it was a nightmare. So this has to come out. Now I had actually done this clip a bit later on and most of the cotton wool's already out now, but it's a real simple process. I just pick up a bit of cotton wool, I flick it until all of the ants are off it. Yes, some do fly all over the place, but I just police them up later with my Hoover, with another bit of cotton wool, and do the same process, just flicking them off. You generally don't hurt them when you do this. You might kill one or two doing this, but doesn't do them a lot of harm, to be honest. I never noticed me killing many of them doing this. I think I killed more when I was actually trying to apply the barrier than policing them up and squishing them when I was trying to hoover them up and getting them off me, biting me and stuff. Awful. Now, if you also notice just under my hands there is a pizza box stand. Now, they're the little stands you get in pizzas to stop your box squishing your pizza and ruining it. But it's really handy to take them and put your jelly pots and put your liquid feeders on there, because it stops ants like these that love to bury their food from putting debris all over it. Well, it helps prevent it anyway, and it has helped prevent it here, but unfortunately I've knocked my jelly pot onto the Outworld floor and I can't pick it up because it just oozes through my tweezers, so I've left it be for now, just took the tub off it. But anyway, as you can see, I'm flicking them all off and I am just about there, thank goodness, because this was a nightmare. So just so you don't think I'm lying, I did actually clean out the Outworld, and that's what this video is here. This is it 2 days later, or the time of editing this video. I just finished cleaning these guys out and cleaning all the rubbish out, and it was a nightmare. There was no two ways around it. But I say this is an Outworld, it's probably more like a nest. There's no brood in here because they are in the main nests, but they're so busy in here. As you can clearly see, I've cleaned it up as well, as you can see, compared to how it was. But as you can see here, they're so busy in there, it might as well be a nest. So clearly I need to get a new nest, I need to get a new Outworld, because they're just too busy in there. As you notice here as well, there's a little worker running about there. I'm hoping that she's not escaped out and she's just been from where I cleaned them out and she managed to get out that way, hopefully. There is a moral to this story, guys, and it's about how to keep on top of your ants. Yes, I forgot to apply the barrier and made it into a car crash, but the truth is my nodas have taken me by complete surprise. I have not prepared for them, I've not got them a big enough nest, and I have not got them a big enough Outworld. That is the moral of this story, guys, not just about applying barriers. But anyway, I'll stop talking rubbish today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this midweek update, even though it's Thursday when I uploaded this, so it's not really a midweek one, but hey, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I owe you all a big thanks, but I also owe my Patreons a big thanks too. So please join me in a big thank you to Adam W, Adrian, Antantix, Anton the Rock, Anty Matters, David D, Jason W, Kevin R, Paul A, Pavance, PJGrant and Wakushi. And if you do want to join my Patreon group and help support my channel like these guys do, please check out a link in the description below. But that's it for today then, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye for now.